Welcome to The Modern Mindset. I'm your host, Josh Giordani. Special guest today, Matt Davies. Welcome to the podcast episode. Realtor, real estate, entrepreneur, investor, all the things. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff today. Excited to have you on.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, brother. So talk to me about your journey and getting into real estate. How'd it start?
So I went to college for music. I actually majored in jazz trumpet performance, and my indicator that wasn't going to be my life path was that I actually graduated with a degree. So it was my goal to be Amy Winehouse's trumpet player, and she died when I was in college. Not that I had a shot at that, but I had some good times playing the trumpet. So I got immediately into medical device sales because you're supposed to grow up and take yourself seriously, right? And immediately hated that passionately. I moved to Los Angeles. I went to school in Orange County. I'm from San Diego, lived in Los Angeles. Passionately hated that. And after a year, I just kind of threw my hands up and said, I got to start over. So I moved back to San Diego, joined a band, grew a mustache, and started working at a little restaurant in La Jolla that I worked at in high school and through college. And I was just slinging pancakes and surfing before work, surfing after work. And after the, fun of that died down, I felt just subtle discomfort of I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I'm talking to everybody that's coming into the restaurant and everybody that's in a good mood, that's having long lunches, driving Range Rovers and, has cool watches and stuff. I'm like, what is it that you do that allows you to have these long lunches and seem so jovial? And they're like, oh, I'm a real estate developer, or oh, I'm a realtor, oh, I'm a title rep, or oh, I'm a this. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it was something I never thought I wanted to do all along the life path until I kind of stumbled upon it. And I got my real estate license in October of 2014, I think, and my first day in real estate was January 4th, 2015. Mm-hmm. I liked being in sales, that aspect of medical device sales, so I took it seriously, and I just hit the pavement, man. I did everything and anything to try and be a successful realtor. I sold 6 houses my first year, working full-time as hard as I could. I was 24 years old. I sold 9 houses my second year. I sold 18 houses my third year. I sold, I think, 20 houses my fourth year, and it just kind of went up. My biggest year, I sold 88 houses in 2020, and then I've kind of gradually shifted into more investment stuff along the way because real estate brokerage was always kind of a means to an end for me, but I do really enjoy it, and I still enjoy it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, and here we are.
I thought you were totally fucking with me with this whole
Really?
the whole musical band thing in the beginning.
I'm
pleasantly surprised that
really?
Was like a real thing. Do you
I'm actually looking forward to this because we don't really know each other.
No, we don't.
So
no.
I could drop something on you that you're like, whoa,
dude. This whole time in my head, I was like, I don't care about the real estate stuff. Now I
Yeah.
want to know about your musical past of you being a jazz artist.
Yeah. So I studied jazz and commercial music at Cal State Fullerton. And just to give you my most notable moments in my music career, because you asked. I was on a show. This was another turning moment, right? Just to zoom out observation of what happened. I was living in Orange County and, adjacent to LA. And you sign up for casting things where you're going to, whatever. So I ended up being in a Glee episode playing the trumpet, but the funniest thing was that's probably the most money I ever made playing the trumpet, and I was instructed not to play the trumpet, just look like you were playing the trumpet.
Huh.
So we had music, and you'd finger along. Mm-hmm. They wanted a really good kind of lip sync edition of the trumpet. So that was notable, and Whoopi Goldberg was on that episode, so I've been in the same room as Whoopi Goldberg, which I could live my whole life not doing that, but I have done that. I also opened up for Macy Gray. I opened up for John Legend. I opened up for Pat Benatar at Petco Park. I've done some kind of cool stuff in that realm as a right-hand man playing the trumpet, and had some awesome experiences on the pretty much every stage in San Diego.
Do you still play?
For my kids, every once in a while, I'll take it out, and they're pretty, enamored with like, whoa, that's cool. I want to try, So yes, no, not publicly, and I tell people I'm not super interested in jamming out because, I took it very seriously.
Sure.
Basically from junior high to age 24, and I practiced 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. I was always playing gigs. I was always traveling. It was my number one focus in life. So for me to pick up the trumpet and be 70% of what I was at my peak is no fun to me. So it's not like, people that do karaoke. They have a great time because they're like, I'm a rock star for a day.
And they're drunk.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I feel like I had some really cool experiences that wouldn't hold a candle to that flame.
Right. Yeah.
So I am a lover of live music. My wife and I go see good shows as much as we can. We watch all the, the calendars of the local music box,
Sure,
Belly Up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's one of our favorite things to do.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
I've never done karaoke.
What?
Yeah, no, I don't like karaoke.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was a rock star, bro. I lived it as much as I could have. I don't have to.
The days of me smoking weed at my house, I think I thought I was a rock star too, but you were actually a rock star. So
in my own mind, I got as close to it as I could have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to be the trumpet player for Amy Winehouse. That was my thing. I manifested that, dude.
Do you still ever think about it?
Yeah, sometimes. I think she's an amazing artist, and I could play all her discography. There's not a whole lot of trumpet playing, but I even met the guy that is her trumpet player.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so it was a really cool chapter in my life.
Yeah.
And I've done some stuff where I kind of draw all the parallels between what I do now and music, and how that background kind of allows me to be versatile in what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
explain that.
I think when it comes to a flip or a development,
Yeah.
right? And music, if you're writing music or a song and there's drums and bass and guitar and piano and trumpets, we could all play at once and make all this noise, right? And same with ADU development. You could, flip the house and turn the garage into a unit and max it out, but just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? We want to find a tasteful intermediary. Music is not about, all our egos are going to outshine each other and this is all virtuosic, and that's not how I approached music. You have your moments that are fun like that. So the way I approach real estate is we got to have the right amount of all these elements in order to create something that's worthwhile, meaningful, and we have to build it in with the vision of who's going to live there, not with the vision of, I want to build the biggest, coolest, tallest building to say I did that.
Right. Has to be synergistic. I think that's a word.
Yeah, synergistic and also not self-serving of your ego.
Right.
So there's just so many, and I think just looking at things from multiple directions, right? Is such a music skill, right? So much of music is listen first before you go add your thing. So
what we can get in. Let's get into the real estate a little bit because we're kind of making it parallel to that. What going from being, so I got my real estate license in 2009. I was a realtor to 2017. And during that time period, I thought that was all I knew. That was what I was going to do. And I think for a lot of realtors who get into business, forget about the other side of, I need to diversify, I need to start investing in real estate. When was that point for you where you were like, hey, being a realtor is great. I can go sell houses. I can do a lot of it. But the scalability of it in terms of eventually being able to retire, hang out with the kids, spend more time with the wife. What was that point where you were like, okay, I need to start doing this. I need to start investing?
So I began with that ideal in mind. And when I was, just because the restaurant I was working at, the people that came in were, they own casinos, and they're single family developers and apartment owners. So a lot of people, I heard some quote that was saying being a real estate agent is the entry-level job into real estate, and there's so many other aspects that you can go down. So I started at this brokerage, Cantor brokerage, and you know Andrew Cantor, right? And the thing that was appealing to me about that was Andrew Cantor was flipping houses, he was developing houses, and he had a brokerage. And he also had a wealth management thing at the time, and it was kind of a cool stage to learn a little bit about a lot. So that's what appealed to me. The other place I wanted to be at was Willis Allen, and I was like, being in La Jolla and going for this little pie where there's so many people that are super competitive about this, I felt like I was going to fail if I started trying that. So I wanted to learn a little bit about a lot, so I started at Cantor Brokerage and was pretty quickly trying to analyze flip deals and looking at things. Hey, here's the tool belt. If you can learn how to use the tools, you can monetize more deals. So it was just a matter of time before I kind of adopted the broker's creed, which is buy the best, sell the rest. And I try not to cross that line with my clients, because when people hire me to sell their house, they're hiring me to have a fiduciary to their best interests, and to be an agent is to put someone else's interests above your own.
Sure.
So I have to compartmentalize myself like that, but I love when other agents bring me deals, or they say, hey, this is like rough condition, we kind of want a cash offer, or there's multiple units, or my favorite, my ping words are like, it's in North Park, because everything I have is in North Park. And I just believe in going deep, not wide. And I create a lot of efficiency in my life by doing that. So yeah, it's been from the beginning, that was, a means to an end, essentially.
I like that. When I got started, 2009, obviously REOs and foreclosures were heavy, deep into the recession. So I started doing short sale negotiations and that type of stuff. And then it led into getting into the investor side and representing investors as a realtor and having those off-market deals from the foreclosure side of things. But I don't know that I absolutely planned on all of a sudden starting to flip houses now that I look back all the years. But I do agree, real estate evolves in so many different ways, and there's so many different aspects of real estate. Right. Like for me, realtor, title insurance, now flipping, developing, whatever else.
Right.
But it's cool evolutions that you can go through in that. But it took me a long time to learn, to figure out that I knew that there needed to be an end path of investing deeper. Yeah. And not being the guy that's out and about at 60 years old, still trying to
do it. Does anybody want to be that? I actually kind of respect the agent that just really wants to door knock and bring monthly CMAs and just be like the neighborhood guy, because it would not make me happy. I have to, like you, do a bunch of different activities. Right. My daily routine is never the same, and it's that part of that. The thrill of that is that every day is different. I love that, and it forces me into so much movement and emotion, and it just creates energy, because I'm just I'm moving here, I'm moving there, I'm killing two birds with one stone, I'm grabbing this, I'm grabbing that.
Right.
So that's just maybe an ADD, how I move through the world thing. That I like being hyperactive, just running around doing as much as I can.
Yeah. Do you have how many deals are you working on right now? Let's talk about your portfolio, what you look for, all that stuff.
Sure. So right now I'm working on one that I'm planning to flip. That is a 3-unit in North Park, and I'm converting a storage space into an ADU.
Nice.
So I fixed the 3 units. I got the ADU permit pretty quickly because there was no structural, and I have my switchgear. I have everything ready, so I'm just trying to rough that thing in and finish. And so it's 2 bungalows in the front, and then there's a 3-2 in the back, and then a 1-1 below, and a 2-car garage, and it's the end of an alley. In terms of, I really look at stuff from a fundamental perspective. I don't want to go buy a house just because I think I can make money on it. I have to be excited about it, and it has to have multiple exit strategies, and it has to really have more than one unit. I like the 2 to 4 unit space. Historically, I think I've only flipped a couple single family houses. Everything else has been 2 to 4 units.
Really?
And Yeah, and that's kind of more of like everybody thinks that flipping houses is like risk, right? It's risky. So I wouldn't say I'm I'm pretty conservative, right? And what I want to do, it has to make sense. Like I get scared of stuff. I'm very quick to like dismiss, like that's just not like in my box, right? So I like Central San Diego. I like the beach. I like North Park, Normal Heights. I like South Park. Just anything adjacent to that. I would do like a single family house in like Serra Mesa. I've done something like Claremont. I live in Bay Park, so I did a project there. I built an ADU behind my house. So I just really like being 10 minutes away from my house. Like that's kind of really important to me. I don't want to commute more than 10 minutes. I got 3 little kids and a wife, and I don't want to spend my life in the freeway. And I read some study that says one of the biggest factors of happiness in life is how long you commute. So I just want to be close to it. And so and then to answer the first half of your question, the other thing I'm working on is I'm building 3 ground-up ADUs behind a 3-plex that I have, also in North Park, which is kind of cool. I'm framing right now. Bought that in 2022, and it has tenants in the front, so it's kind of a
tricky situation.
There's alley access, so it's not like super tricky, and I'm giving them a discount on rent, and they've all been really cool. And I manage the stuff myself, so I have like a pretty good, I'm on it. Like I'm super responsive. I want to take care of my tenants and be reasonable with them and stuff. So
yeah, I like it. Are you ever worried about, because you're mainly buying in California, do you ever worry about tenant laws or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I don't worry about it in like a doom gloom way. I kind of have this like, if everybody's screwed, nobody's screwed attitude about it, which is kind of like what I understand to be like what 2008 was like. Like if everybody's short selling houses, that's just like what everybody's doing, right? If everybody's, they just keep, inching towards like communism over here, honestly, and or socialism or whatever, and it seems like landlords have less autonomy of their own property, and I know it's not a landlord, favorable state and city, but I try to get good representation, and so that I'm following the rules. I don't want to cowboy anything in that regard. I have a couple nightmare stories.
I'm sure.
Just that are nothing like, just stuff that happens, you move fast, break things. Things happen.
Right.
But my hedge against that is having nice units at market rents and keeping them at market rents, because all this rent control stuff is really detrimental to creating affordable housing, which I think if you understand basic economics, you agree. But for some reason, the leadership in California believes that they can just legislate people into giving their property away for less. So, give an inch, they take a mile, and eventually I'm sure we'll all sell everything and move to Puerto Rico or something and try and 1031 into a DST and ride off into the sunset, maybe.
I like that. I think the areas that you buy too, I think focusing on areas that aren't maybe lower class and not those C-class properties that typically you're going to get a better tenant. It sounds like before we even jumped on this, like your typical tenant is maybe your higher paying, higher income earner.
I don't have the stomach for doing stuff in like C neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the stomach for, like, if there's tarps on cars or there's, it's just, I just don't have the stomach for it. And I think it's every deal. I'm like a solopreneur, right? I wear a lot of hats begrudgingly sometimes, and sometimes, at my own direction. And I just want to make reasonable deals with people and have reasonable requests and provide them a quality product and, have a high level of accountability between things, right? If somebody has a problem, I want to take care of it quickly. And in exchange, they're going to pay a market rent. So maybe there's going to be more turnover, but my average tenant's probably, like high 20s, low 30s, young professionals. A lot of people have dogs. That's something I never wanted to have, but tenant laws. I don't even want to say anything about it because people are. I don't want to die on a weird hill like that. You know, you can't have a dog, and all of a sudden I have some lawsuit about that.
We're a sue happy state too.
Yeah. You know, it's like one of my mentors is like, okay, like how much money are you going to make on this deal? Or like, you know, when I'm bitching about something, he tries to bring it into perspective. Like, you know, what did you put into this? What is it worth? What are you going to make on it? And now you need to like make this decision with that in mind, you know? So to segue into something like that, when people bring me deals and they're like, this really wouldn't work for a flip or it would work for a buy and hold, I approach that completely opposite. So when people say that, they mean there's no margin, right? That's just code for there's no margin. I try to keep my best deals to, you know, own them, shield them from tax, and operate them as rentals, have a lower tax basis, get better financing, hopefully add units, and have something that actually cash flows in California, which is super rare, but it does exist. And I feel kind of fortunate and lucky to have been doing some of these activities to grab some properties at like half price a few years ago that they are today, half interest rate, half construction cost, what they are today.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, I feel like buying rentals in today's, I would even say the last 2 years, 2023 to now, has probably been one of the most challenging times to buy a rental and have it even make sense. And I think even with doing developments, like with what you're doing, how hard is it to actually make those pencil out in this market?
Yeah, it's increasingly harder, like you said, and I don't really know how a lot of people are making sense of it. That's a little bit of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think if you, you know, manifest that and say that to yourself, you're not going to come across any good deals. But I think you need to be willing to add a lot of value. You need to be buying something that doesn't have a lot of red tape on it, like, you know, bad tenants or, you know, tenants with long leases. You need to get good debt. You know, you have to get good credit score, have a high down payment. You need to avoid doing as many refinances as you can if you can skip one or two, because sometimes I have to buy something with a hard money loan, fix it, refinance it with a bank loan, and then it would make sense for me to refinance it into a construction loan and then refinance it into a commercial loan. But if I could skip one or two of those by using a line of credit or by using cash, you're saving $20, $30, $40, $50,000.
Right.
And that just kind of goes into your back pocket. So I think you need to really be self-performing one or more of these activities, and I'm self-performing way too many of them. The only thing I don't do is like swing a hammer, right? I run my own construction. I hire subs. I've had several bad experiences with contractors. I've had like one good experience with a contractor, to be honest, someone that I would work with again. And so now I just hire my own subs. I do my own acquisition. I do my own disposition as a realtor, as a broker. I do my own construction management. I do my own property management. I do kind of my own design. I have help from people with that I'll kind of rinse and repeat and try to create a bit of a system with that. But all of that needs to happen in order to create a cash flowing asset that has good debt that makes sense to hold right now to me.
Yeah. I think, and I've said this before in the past, and this is just something that I've gotten to the point where I feel like the glorification of I love real estate. I love owning rentals, and I think at some point it's going to be a great thing for someone, but I don't think most people are ready to buy rentals. And I think owning a rental, so I bought two last year, 50% below market value.
Yeah.
Very much below market value. After I refied it, I was still in it for less than 50% on both of those deals. Yeah. Neither one of them cash flow. I'm negative $6,000 a month on two deals. But my appreciation is over $1 million, right? In a matter of 6 months. I could have sold both of those and just paid what I would have on a traditional flip. I decided to keep them for a year just to kind of work it out. And I think in my mind, it was my ego of like, hey, I wanted to like have the glorification of like, I own rental real estate. Because it was my first year making a lot of money, you know, 6 figures a month. Like in that time, that's been a lot of money for me. Right. And even that, with being negative that amount of money and having to fix things as they come up, is still a nightmare. It's still a pain in the ass, and it's still a headache. And I think most people don't understand that buying real estate, unless you're in Ohio or in these different markets where it's entry level is very low, but in San Diego or in California, in an expensive market, I really think you have to be rich in order to start buying rentals and start stacking rentals.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I mean, it's a hard climate right now. Like I said earlier, it's like I got kind of lucky doing the right thing at the right time, talking to the right people, getting the right advice, and kind of, going just out of my comfort zone at the right amount. And when rates were like 3.5%, and there's a whole lot of people that have an expectation that they're going to live off of cash flow, right? And cash flow is kind of just like a buffer for emergencies. And it's like, I consider cash flow to be something that you have to reinvest into your properties over time. You kind of almost just have to like escrow that amount and use it to keep things afloat. And there's so many things that you have to take into account when you're buying rentals about your own human psychology, because you need to have enough money in your bank account to sleep well. And when you buy rentals, people think, a rental is an asset, right? But if everybody, if somebody drives a car through the building and everybody has to vacate, you're going to fight with the insurance company, and you're going to be paying this mortgage because the bank doesn't care. And now it's a liability. So all these things have like the ability to just bite you really hard.
Yeah.
So like this fear and understanding, like I had 2 code enforcements last year that thank God I'm out of. City of San Diego has really been cracking down on things that used to be not a big deal. And, I had a bootleg unit that was on Airbnb that I had to vacate, and I had to dump a bunch of money in, and then I lost my Airbnb licenses on the other units because I couldn't have one during that time. And it was just like, there's all these shiny objects like Airbnb rental arbitrage. Like, I would never Airbnb a property again. I have 3 set up on one parcel, but it's not a business model I think is viable that I want to grow, because just as much as a payment can bite you in the butt, like this other business partner that you have, like Airbnb, can bite you in the butt. And there's just kind of a lot going on in a lot of people. So you have to stay small. And somebody was alluding to this quote that I said a while ago: you have to be a massive income earner in order to be a passive income earner. I really, really believe that. And I think my other buddy, great commercial lender, if you ever need one, Dave Ibrahim, he says, he's like, gosh, I totally just forgot what he was going to say because I was just thinking about our refinance. He's doing a great job for me on refinance. But you have to be a passive income earner. You have to be a massive income earner to be a passive income earner, because you got to just park so much money if you're going to do it in an appreciation state like you're talking about. And you have to really have like several value add options so that for whatever reason, like you're negatively cash flowing $6,000 a month, you're like, okay, what's the stage 2? And like, do I want to pass go on the stage 2, or do I want to rip the equity out of this thing and move it into somewhere else where I can add value quicker? Or do I want to, continue working on this thing? I have a thing where I just kind of get sick of solving problems at the same address. I'm like, I've been here for 6 months, and like, it's just, come on, let's like I need to break this thing loose. So, it's there's expectation and there's reality with everything in life, right? With like marriage, with business, with kids, with just relationships, and owning rental real estate is like, I think it's really cool, and I like to do it. But I also am a control freak, right? All my stuff's in North Park. I have my eyes on stuff. I respond to things really quick. I do a lot of things. I say a lot of things very intentionally so that I do my own tenant selection. So I try to get reasonable people that can afford to pay the rent, that are excited to live there. And if they ever have a problem, try to work with them and be reasonable with them. I don't ever want to, fight an unholy war,
Yeah, 100%. I was going to, you mentioned a couple things. Airbnb, one of the things that I thought about recently is that Airbnb has never gone through a recession. And I think owning some of the stuff when it comes to long-term tenants is important, right? When we go through a recession, someone loses their job, you still potentially have tenants who pay rent.
Sure.
With Airbnb, who's going to go on a vacation when they can't afford it? And Airbnb has not gone through a recession, and a lot of people have purchased Airbnbs thinking that this is going to be a sustainable model over time. And a lot of people made money on Airbnbs during COVID, sure. And I think that can change and will change once something happens and something breaks in our system, which is very possible to happen. And that's one of them is an Airbnb. We're getting like 8 a month on it, but still like, it's in an area that's not going to get vacation traffic. It's kind of high. It's high end. So you mentioned the second thing that I was thinking about recently is I'm ready to sell them all. And 1031 them, exchange them into take the equity, 1031 exchange it into some multifamily, some development, something where I can have value add. One, because as I'm sure you know, we can talk about this a little bit, is the commercial market's getting a little interesting when it comes to multifamily space. Sure. So there may be some opportunities that come up in the next couple of years that I can see circulating. But maybe I can get into something, one that has a 15x on my cost segregation versus a 10x on a single family or a residential. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Airbnb thing, the ship has sailed for that a little bit. I had Airbnbs during COVID, and they really showed their cards about who they were going to favor, host versus guest. And I think it's a cool model. I mean, they created a space, but essentially what you're doing as an owner is converting your residential property, which is kind of like a food, shelter, water, air, like necessity, like you're in that business, right, to a tourism business. And you're putting cute shit on the wall, and you're, like, here's some bean bags for you to throw around in a fire pit, and you're ruffling feathers. And, look, like, change is inevitable. A lot of people resist change, and it's not so much everybody around you. I see people building these ADUs in residential neighborhoods where they're, like, building bonus ADU, like 12 of them. And I believe that's one of those, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And maybe there's situations where you should, but man, I don't really want to do anything that goes that against the grain, So I'm definitely not looking to expand that business model. Yeah. And I've ran it, for like 4 years, and I've seen the annualized numbers and really dove into it on what's my cost of, just it's capital expenditures, right? Like sheets and I've replaced a bunch of couches, and I've replaced a bunch of, blinds and this and that. And you get little nasty grams in the morning sometimes, or at night, or people that don't read the instructions. I manage that stuff myself, and it's a nightmare. And I look at the number, and everybody drives it like a rental. They crank the AC, so I get this $800 SDG&E bills. It's a nightmare, dude.
Yeah, condoms in the pool.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Missing vacuums that someone stole.
Dude, there's weird stuff. People stealing toilet paper when that was a thing, when that was a hot commodity during COVID. So, yeah, I'm not looking to expand that model, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think people should be penciling things to make them work. Right. As an Airbnb, I think it needs to pencil as a rental, and you need to be able to the days of buying real estate for zero down are on hold. They're not happening, and I personally have never done that. I've done that once, actually, but I still parked money in it, right? I put I got a really good deal, so I got like 105% financing, but then I paid for the rehab, and I put money into it, and I just parked it there. It is a vehicle for long-term investment. Like you need to invest it.
That's the way I looked at it too. I looked at it like a long-term savings account, and at the house that I did Airbnb, we looked at it as a vacation house originally, but then now it's just mentally draining. Yeah. Both of those, though, I was able to actually pull all 100%, almost 100% of my money out. Yeah. Wow. That's how good of a deal I got.
But you're still cash flowing negative $6,000.
And I'm still negative.
Well, you were able to.
I was able to. Yeah, I was able to pull out 100%. Should I have? Probably not.
No. I mean, if you can, you should. If you have a plan, especially if there's a second wave of like, hey, I'm going to throw an ADU back there, and I'm going to negatively cash flow.
One's a condo, one's a single family house.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted your talk, but yeah, one's a single family house and then one's a condo, but both still, one of them's negative $1,500 and the other one, I'm getting 7 right now, 7 or 8, and I think the mortgage is like 8-ish, 83. So after costs and everything else, so I don't know if I'm -6, but it's like still enough to where it doesn't feel good.
It's funny how we have these like inclinations, like you kind of know what you need to do there, but there's also like pride of ownership and like excitement and, you know, future belief in that. I have this awesome client who's a attorney and like a life coach, just a really cool, informed person. And she told me this quote a long time ago, and I say it once a week in different scenarios. I say, it's hard to read the label when you're outside of the jar. When you're inside the jar. It's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. So I can tell you what your jar says, right? Because you're inside the jar. And I'm like, oh, my God, your negative cash flow like $6,000. Like, punt it all, right? But I don't have, like, the deep understanding. But maybe I do have 30% of the information I need to know to make a good decision. And just like you could tell me, like, looking at my stuff, like, dude, you should get rid of that one. You've added all the value. It's seasoned for 1031. Like, screw your 3.5% interest rate. You should go use that equity that's just rotting in that property and like exchange it and do something else. So I think it's really good to have these conversations with our peers and be open face about, hey, this is what I've got and what I'm trying to work through. And I model this stuff out in, you know, spreadsheets myself where I'm like, okay, what's my ideal position number one? What's my ideal position number two with what I have? Do I need to like move a chess piece over here to kind of, you know, you got to give up good for great, you know, and these are all decisions that are long term. And I don't know about you, but my life changes drastically every 5 years. So it's hard to make these lifelong decisions while in such a changing environment, especially with, gosh, hindsight's 2020, right? I look at the things that I did grab and got great interest rates and I think, gosh, I wish I doubled down on that. But if I had doubled down on that at the time, it would have been like really risky. It would have been out of my comfort zone. And maybe I really kind of believe in like take the stairs, not the elevator, and learn what you need to learn to really like, you know, get a couple, you know, lose. Andrew Greer says, he goes, you got to lose a few teeth to get a new smile. I don't know if that's original, but I love that one.
I love that quote.
You know, because you get banged up on stuff,
You do.
right?
You
Things
do.
happen. You're like, $14,000. What? You know, that wasn't in the budget.
I put hedges in the backyard and it was $7,000.
Yeah, like, oh gosh, you know. So you gotta like. There's this great guy. What's his name? Naval Ravikant. Have you heard of him? He's like a famous angel investor guy. But he says, leverage amplifies your judgment. So if you start with something kind of small, and if it's a boo-boo and it's 10% over and it's $100,000, you know, you just like a 10 grand boo-boo, that hurts, right? If you go 10 million right out of the gates and it's 10% over, you're $1 million out of it, and like, you know, people don't understand the viciousness that which these things they love can bite you and take you down, you know, so you have to operate conservatively, but you have to keep moving forward.
No, I like that.
That wasn't a lecture, by the way. That was just a, you know.
No, and I agree. The only reason I brought that up because I agree. I know where it's at, right? If it's not making money, I think the way that I looked at it was like I needed to buy real estate to offset some taxes, and then I realized like, okay, maybe it wasn't the greatest tax shelter in the first place because I'm not even managing it myself, and I still had a W-2 job, so doing a cost segregation on a single family on a condo is not going to make a whole lot of sense, and I'm not going to save a ton on my taxes. Yeah. So a lot of that was just a byproduct of like now feeling, okay, I'm not selling it because I need to sell it, because there's those things you have in your head, like your ego, right? You're like, oh, he's selling his real estate. Right. He's filing bankruptcy. He's not making money. He's losing his job, whatever it is, right? Which isn't the case. Just not it wasn't a great investment, and I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. To me, I looked at it like a learning experience, and I'm glad I did it. Will I do it again where I'm not cash flowing or where I'm negative this much? Probably not, right? Yeah. It may be a different sense if I was to get a good deal on a multifamily deal where it's maybe break even.
It's like, Jonathan Siegel, you heard of him?
I think so, yeah.
He's like big developer, like probably the most famous developer in San Diego. Like he says like development is like pushing a boulder uphill. And I think of that in relation to like, you're just like lugging a mortgage along. You know, it has to cash flow for that reason. It has to be in a good area. It has to, like, so many things need to, like, line up. I have to be kind of enamored with it. Like, I have to feel a little, excitement. Like I have this one property and it's like, 1924, like Spanish, and it's 3 units and it's 2 stories. And it's like, it's just like you come and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And people walk by and they're like, whoa. And it's got to have that, like, to keep you in it for the long haul. And you also got to know when to divorce yourself of these, like, ideas of being enamored, where you're being too enamored. Because the numbers, all these things got to line up, right? Yeah. The numbers got to work.
One of them, I am enamored. So you said that, and I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, that was kind of what it was, because it was this, like, very special mid-century modern, famous architect, all these things that kind of lined up. Could have been a great flip if I would have just sold it at the time when I had it. It appraised for 1.3, and I was only into it for like 8.
Yeah.
So like, but now I'm still like excited about it. Everyone loves it. It's probably like the nicest house on the block.
Yeah. You rent it or you live in it?
No, it's an Airbnb. So it's being rented out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely one of those things where I've been...
How's the wear and tear on it?
Been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought it. Yeah. I haven't seen it actually since like October of last year. So yeah. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's been rented consistently. It's just like one of those things. It's like you're not...
Well, it's like, what's your objective with it, right? That's the question. Like, what's your objective?
But I couldn't answer that. That's the problem, right? Is like, I think that's why I kind of brought up this whole rental thing, because I'm more of talking to myself. It's like you hear all these podcasts and you hear all these people talking about buying rentals and buying real estate. Mm-hmm. What they don't realize is the other stuff that comes with it in this market. With a 3% interest or sub 4% interest rate, it may be a different scenario if you're buying really good deals. But in a 6% plus market, if you're not doing some type of major value add or development play like what you do, I just don't think it makes a whole lot of logical sense.
Yeah. With the 6% rates, like, 6 is a good rate right now.
Right now, 6. LOI. That's why I said 6%.
6.42% right now, and I'm very happy about it, which is crazy because my first mortgage was at 4.5%. And it was supposed to be 3.5, and then Chase Bank, like this little switchy thing. And then my first investment loan was at 5.125%. And when I refinanced that to like 3.375%, I saved like over $1,000 a month. I was like, oh, yes. So to be excited about a 6% rate, 6.5 is like, it's silly, but that's where we are.
Right.
Right. So I don't know about the current state of things. I think we are a boom and bust economy, and we are probably going to bust sometime here in the near future, which is scary to say. I don't know how, but who cares? Yeah. How does it even matter, right? Good properties are always going to trade. They're always going to sell for a good price. So that's why I don't want anything in the hood. That's why I don't want anything that's fringe. That's why I don't want anything on like a half lot. That's why I don't want anything, you only have so much capital. It's kind of like, how far can my money get me? And how much money can I create that's forced equity, that's shielded gains? And, I haven't really thought about, like, the step 2. Like, there's some brilliant real estate people, like, I'm sure you studied, like, Sam Zell, or, like, read his, like, he's got this great book, Am I Being Too, I don't know, something. But he sold, like, $1 billion office portfolio in, like, 2007, right before everything, like, like trophy asset, and he's done several like just huge real estate plays where he goes just clears house. So I don't know, something for guys like you and me to think about. When's the time to get off the train, and when's the time to get back on, and when's the time to pay some tax, and when's the time to do an exchange, and I don't know, man. There's so much more to this game on the emotional side and on the discipline, investment, and economic side than I ever thought. I mean, I'm learning so much every day, and I have a couple things that I would love to sell that I don't want to brag, but like cash flow really well, and I have like low amount of equity parked to them. They cash flowing really well, and for my own reasons, like I've added all the value to it. One's next to like a future development site that I happen to broker, so I did that to myself. So eventually it's going to be 7-story building next door. My tenants are going to complain, and there's going to be no parking. And I'm like, God, I'd love to trade that thing, but I can't because the 3.5% interest rate is an asset, right? I mean, I was trying to figure out how you can like recollateralize or like a substitution of collateral, like move my debt from somewhere. I don't think you can do it.
No, I don't think you could do that either.
It
sounds cool though.
I mean, it's actually very basic, right? If it's like, hey, this is at 50% leverage. It's I'm going to give you something that's at 40% leverage, and you collateralize it in first position.
Hey, Chase.
Yeah.
Take this number and put it on this asset.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'll even pay you guys a fee. I mean, they do loan mods and stuff.
I'll pay you a point.
I think you can do that in Texas or something like that. Or Texas is the first state where you're allowed to do assume somebody else's mortgage. So I don't know, man. Especially in these times, everything's screeched to a halt because all these people with 3.5% interest rates. It's like, what am I going to do? Sell, pay taxes, and buy something that sucks?
You were talking about capital and a lot of that stuff too. Like when you're analyzing stuff, I think mental capital makes a big play into a lot of it. I think things that I tend to look at now, like I got a lead recently and he was like, yeah, there's gang members in there and constantly like having to call the cops every time I go. And I'm like instantly passed. I'm like, there's nothing that I want to take on with gang members or people breaking in or having to deal with anything like that. Like, there's no amount of money that will make me do that.
You don't have the stomach for it,
like
me. It's I don't want to lie awake in bed at night wondering about that. I'm not that dead inside.
Right.
I'm kind of dead inside, but not that much.
Yeah, we'll get jumped. I'll need you to go with me because you carry.
Yeah, I mean, dude. I don't want to ever put myself in a position like that, especially with like a family and stuff. It's just not worth it, right? It's funny. Like I bought a deal like that once, and there was like a heroin dealer still in it, and it's just I knocked on the door and talked to the guy. He came to the door in like a towel, this huge dude. And he's like, oh, no, they're going to unravel all that. And I was just like, well, I could like give you some money or I can send my, start sending you like, attorney letters. And he's like, no, they're going to unravel this. I'm like, okay, attorney letters it is. Goodbye. Right. And we just put it in the system and the system makes it go away. So eventually, but it's just, you just shotgun a bunch of money over there.
Totally.
It's just.
Yeah. I think all of it though. Anytime I analyze a deal, I always think of, okay, capital, mental capital. Is it going to cost a lot of money? Is it going to cost a lot of my mental capital? Yeah. If it's going to do a mixture of both of those, most likely it's a pass and I'm going to move on from it.
Yeah, dude. And, I mean, time is the other thing that people don't understand. Like, time is money, right? I think of things in annualized returns. Like, if I'm going to build something new construction, it's going to take me 2 years. What's my annualized return? It's going to be kind of garbage when I could just move in and out of, in this environment, right? With this debt, with these prices, with this, like, the cost of labor and lumber and sticks and bricks and all that. It's just not adding up. Something's got to give.
It does.
What's it going to be, though?
I don't know. Maybe the lumber turns into, like, a 3D print.
Oh, yeah. I think people have been trying to crack that code for a long time.
I don't know if it's going to happen.
I mean, maybe in the future, but this is how it is, right? All the structural engineering is, you can do little cute things like that, but I'd rather build out of concrete, than some sustainable, like, I don't know. I'm not opposed to it, but I've looked at the prefab thing. I just don't think it's viable for several different reasons. They're prefabricated, so they're only going to work for lower density. When you're trying to just really ram them in there, you need precise measurements because you're working within precise confines.
Right.
So
I like it.
Yeah.
What do you we can switch from real estate. What do you like to do for fun, buddy?
Gosh. I'm kind of like all in on real estate, to be honest with you, which makes me a little boring. What do I do for fun?
I'm not judging you for that.
Yeah, no.
You kind of have to be obsessed a little bit.
Yeah, you do have to be obsessed. And I do like love it and think about it often. I mean, always obsess about it. I like driving my Porsche, which is pretty cool. I'm not a car guy. I'm a Porsche guy.
I have a Porsche.
Nice. Yeah. I like spending time with my kids, man. I have 3 little boys. That's awesome. And it's just kind of crazy to see life through their eyes. Mm-hmm. And just, it's like reliving your childhood. Mm-hmm.
A bunch of little yous?
Yeah, dude. Thing 1, thing 2, thing 3. They're all like mini-me. Totally.
Are they into jazz?
I think we'll have a trumpet player too. For
nice.
Sure, between the 3 of them. I like riding like e-bikes with them. I like being by the beach. I like surfing. I don't do it as much as I used to.
as we get older. A lot of those things that we used to do. It's like now I barely play golf. Like,
Yeah, I like to golf too,
Yeah.
but I don't have time for 18 holes anymore. I could go play 9.
me too.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm good for 9. We played. I played the other day, and we played. We were supposed to play 18, and by the 9th, or I think we actually got to like the 10th or 11th hole, and finally I was just like,
It's beer o'clock, right?
"Hey guys, it's like 10 o'clock," and my phone started. We went and played early, which is always nice. Like you go at 8 a.m. or tee off at like 7 something. You get through 9. You get on the back, all of a sudden your phone starts blowing up, and I just can't. I can't do it. Like I start getting frustrated, and I'm just like, "Phone, shut off." But you have to feel like you feel it.
I feel like as a real estate professional, we never get really off the 24/7 grind thing, but Friday afternoon is like one of the most peaceful times that like my phone doesn't go berserk.
Yeah.
And I try to, like, now that I have a family, be like not working nights and weekends and really have that boundary with, I mean, even when I have like a meeting or a lunch with somebody, I just don't look at my phone. It's like, if it's my wife, I'll pick up. But I'm not, I just try to be in the here and the now, which is so hard, especially, you know, it's just, we have such a system of abusive automated content from all directions, right? Like telephone, text message, email, and I just don't ever want to register that way on people's radar. And I wish these like spam block things or you know, put something in junk would actually work. I want to live like simply and
I like
only
that.
only be contacted by real humans
I
that I want to, you know, connect with.
I have this running joke, like anyone who texts me after 7 o'clock. I'm sure there's a meme out there that I sent. Andrew and I both posted it, I think, where if you text me past, I think 6 p.m., then I'm going to text you at 5 a.m. I'll text you back the next day at 5 a.m. That's like, I try so hard not to respond. I try to put my phone on focus mode as much as I can, or do not disturb, because dude, it's hard. And I know newly married, and it's not the easiest with working on deals and stuff like that.
That's another thing that's a huge thing I'm trying to learn in my life. Just there's so much duality. Is that the word?
I don't know.
I'm trying to describe this, but it used to be that you say yes to every opportunity, right? You say yes to every happy hour, say yes to every agent or vendor that wants to buy you coffee, just to be out there, to get known, to know people, to walk property, to be in the know and the now and the this. And then there comes this point where you need to start, like Pareto's law, paring all these things down and trying to find out where do the results come from, and you need to do more of that and avoid the just the filler activities. But with your family and with your work, it's like you're not getting like a return on a direct return, like a commoditizable return on like spending time with your family. That's like this, you have to toggle between this like living in the now and the moment with your life and your relationships, and like generating resources so that you could do that. But also be abundant about it,
Right.
but don't abuse your relationships by being too abundant without it, or being distracted, or being like, you know, and every little thing in my life is like, well, it depends.
There's a middle ground. It's funny you said that. Recently, I've been feeling when you're going and saying yes to a lot more things, and you are starting to get known in a specific space, and people want to start understanding the things that you're doing and how you do them, and take a lot of time and energy away from your mental, at least for me, mental capacity. It gets exhausting.
Yeah.
And it gets draining. In the beginning, you want to be helpful. You want to share whatever you're doing to maybe help someone else because they see you as being successful or whatever it is. But after a while, it's not fun.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where now, I'm sure in your life, you can say no to a lot more things because the family aspect of things is way more important.
It's a great excuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you handle that stuff? I mean, you're describing exactly what I go through. You know, there's a lot of unsolicited, like, I don't mean to sound like cool when I'm saying this, but hey, like, can I buy you a coffee? Can I blah, 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 with like no like specific agenda. And I'm like, man, when I go out, like I go out to hunt, and then I come back with my kills to feed my kids. You know, like I'm just in a very like, I'm getting stuff done, and all my friends that, you know, or like my dad will come hang out with me, dude, and I'm like running around, you know, and I'm a hustler, dude. I'm like moving, dude. I move fast. I'm like, do not walk slow when you're with me, you know?
Move fast, go fast.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I also understand my power band time. So when someone's like, hey, can we like have a coffee 8 a.m. on Tuesday? I'm like, I'm going to be making pancakes for my kids and being present while like revving my motor to go get like 95 things done before noon. Like, that's not an available time. But I can't explain that to them. But I'm also like, what is I don't know, man. I'm trying to live an intentional life, not an accidental one.
And I think we're probably don't know how to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm asking you. Like,
and
how
I don't.
How do you handle like soft rejection of people that want to connect with you?
The problem is I haven't been. And I've been feeling like now it's the point where, and I don't want to say use because that's a strong word, but it gets to the point where, like, if someone wants to do what you do, why would you open up the secret sauce to someone who quote unquote wants to be a competitor? Like, I love everyone, and I think there's plenty of room in any space for anyone. Yeah. But there's a point where it becomes like, if me helping you may hurt me, why am I helping you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's an appropriate attitude in certain situations, not all. I think there's a deep blue ocean of opportunity. Like, there's always going to be more. But then there's also people that are just kind of like trying to know what you know. You know, they're just trying to want to know. And like, for me in North Park, people call me and be like, hey, what was that thing that you were blah, 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 blah. And they kind of want to know the insider intel. And I'm like, well, the insider intel is the secret sauce that I use to represent myself and my clients in getting really good results. So why would I give that to you for free?
Yeah.
Which is, it's like, I can't share that with you. Like, I mean, I had somebody reach out on one of my flips, just a random person, be like, hey, can you send me the contractor's information for this flip? Like, I'm interested in doing a thing. And I'm like, I didn't even respond. Because it's like, no, dude, like, this is like, man, and I did eventually respond because he kept following up. And I was like, hey, they only work business to business, and they work for me. And I unfortunately have toiled long and hard to, you know, develop and establish these certain finishes and work with these people. And it's kind of proprietary. It's the best way I can kind of explain it.
I had the exact same situation just happen. I closed up. I had a high-end deal in San Marcos that one of the neighbors called my agent, was like, hey, can the construction crew come over and do my kitchen just like that? And he called me. He's like, do you want me to, can I refer them, your construction crew? I'm like, no, dude. Yeah. These are my guys. Yeah. Like, why would...
It's a funny line because I don't think people mean to be it, like, they don't mean it maliciously.
No, they don't. But they just don't understand.
Yeah, and you know, in construction, when your guys get busy, like I have, dude, like one of my clients is using my guys right now, and they're neglecting my stuff, right? And I pay interest like every day, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all the days, 365 a year. And I'm like, God, it's directly costing me money.
Right.
You know, so I also don't refer people because once they have a bad experience with one of my guys that I referred, all of a sudden that reflects poorly on me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's more of an expectation versus reality. Welcome to construction. It's a nightmare.
It's a fucking nightmare.
Like, I don't have, like, you think I have this under control?
Right.
Like, I'm constantly trying to rein this thing in.
Right. Dude, and I don't even know some of
just spraying money at problems to try and rein it in.
That's the only thing when it comes to construction and development, the solution or the problem, how to solve the problem, the solution is more money.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Dude, I have this saying that all signs point to you need more money. So like, you know, buying more rentals, having cash flow, doing more flips. You need working capital for that, working capital for that, working capital for that. You know, emergency fund for yourself. You need just like this exorbitant amount of capital. Mm-hmm. And you only grow that by kind of like destabilizing what you have stabilized in order to grow and then restabilize and then destabilize again to restabilize. And it's a grind, man. And it takes constant management and really hard work. And there's no observation of, you know, working hours or something. And, you know, as much as I like to try and have boundaries with people, like my, you know, for example, like plumber calls me, I'm like, dude, I got to call you back. This guy works with his hands. He doesn't call me. He doesn't pick up when I call. Mm-hmm. He's calling me right now because he's ready to do some work, and I got to just jump on this opportunity.
Or I need you to pay him.
Yeah, well, I'm, look, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
done. Come pay me.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I'm in Bora Bora. Like,
Leave me alone.
yeah.
Talk to my non-existent assistant.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're all learning the same lessons in different vehicles.
I think so too.
And
And I don't think there's ever a right or a wrong way to do it. I think you just realize what works for you and what doesn't. And again, it comes down to like what kind of mental capital do you want to take on?
yeah, everybody has like your batteries for dealing with things, and like the emotionally draining stuff is like, the things that are catastrophized by someone else or dramatic. It all just kind of like,
Yeah.
so you got to do this, like, protect your time, but also put yourself out there. Like you're doing it right now. And like, I'm doing it right now. The reason I like to come and talk on these things is because people get to have a conversation with me like we're having, or like they think they're you, and they kind of get to know what I'm about. So when they're like, I love when you said that thing, blah, 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 and we can kind of skip the formalities because they kind of know what I'm about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an attraction-based thing where people will come to me and with something that may be relevant. I don't know if I'm not doing it for something directly, but I believe being top of mind is a very indirect strategy for
No, and I
growth,
like,
and in whatever
100%.
way,
I like that. A lot of people ask me all the time, like, why I do these things. Like, oh, do you monetize it?
Why do you do it?
Do you get paid for it? I like having these conversations. Like, if I was to, so you and I, we met at Marcel's house, randomly in passing. I don't even think we maybe said like, what's up to each other, and that was about it, right?
Yeah.
And then you saw Guillermo's episode, and I hit you up, and I was like, hey, come on the podcast, right? Yeah. But you're obviously someone in the industry that I think a lot of people look up to, and having this type of conversation with someone who is very well respected in the industry, for where people can learn from and that I can learn from, is what I love. So selfishly, it's to talk to people like you and like other people who are thought leaders in the space, where I get to learn things that I'm doing and things that you're doing at a higher level. And I think having these deeper conversations, hopefully other people get value out of it, and that's ultimately what it is. And you and I look for different things, right? You look for things in North Park that you can develop that
I've successfully made that impression.
Yeah, still have the flip margins, that it's not a buy and hold margin. But and for me, it's like I want to keep buying more real estate too. Mine are flip margins.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll buy anywhere, just not in the ghetto. So yeah.
Just not in the ghetto. Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, selfishly, it's just learning around people who are doing similar things, and
I don't think there's anything selfish about it. I think it's a cool activity to kind of put the spotlight on it and have the convo, because it, like you said earlier, you're saying it out loud, kind of not only to share, but for yourself to like straighten out these neural pathways of why we do what we do. And sometimes you say something and you hear it and you're like, well, that didn't make any sense. Or that made a lot of sense, and it brings clarity to something you're working through right now.
100%.
Everything we do is all just a bunch of decisions that lead to an outcome.
100%. We were also talking about like going for a coffee appointment,
Yeah.
right? To me, this is a little higher level than going on a coffee appointment. It's a win-win for
sure.
both of us,
Yeah.
where it's not just at like a time suck where you're just sitting at coffee like, oh, what does this fucker want, right? You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I like about it.
It's high quality too. I see a lot of people just making a lot of like crap content, which is, just to be, Gary Vaynerchuk, like 4 times a day, all this stuff. I never wanted to go that direction. I always want to say, if I'm going to do something, it's going to be short, succinct, and high quality, or funny, or, lighthearted, or something that's just, meaningful. And I'm trying to be rich. I'm trying to be rich, not famous.
I like that.
You're
trying to be known, but not too known.
Yeah, known to who I want to know, people that I want to connect with. And I think connecting with people that you can mutually benefit each other is kind of like a cool, like, I don't have any burnout friends, man. All my friends are winners.
Yeah.
It's
Seriously,
cool.
though,
Yeah, it's rad.
No, it's super cool. And the people that you can call, and like people who I've met on this, where I can, very high level people, where I feel like I can call them and ask them questions about the things that I'm doing, and that they'll be open minded, they'll be open to helping, even if we're competitors.
Right.
And it's a win-win, I think, for everyone. But it's just it's cool. And it's opened a lot of doors that I didn't think that were opening before, and put me around people who are just doing things at a very high level.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed it from my perspective of your,
thanks, man.
evolution and,
Growth.
yeah, put yourself out there. It's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts?
Gosh, do I have anything meaningful to say?
Basically, what I got out of this is that I was being lectured to sell all my rentals.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, me and all my friends were like, punt it.
Punt it, bro.
Sell it. Yeah, you
Yeah,
should
get out of
totally
it.
sell it. I don't know why you buy this to lose money. You buy it to make money.
You're not supposed to be emotionally attached to real estate.
Yeah. I mean, dude, to leave a closing thought on it, like knowing the math on things, and I don't know how to use an Excel spreadsheet. Like I'm pretty good at algebra, but I don't know how to format like cells or anything, but I know the numbers on my deals, and I like really dive into like what those costs are. Like we're kind of talking about the Airbnb thing, when you're looking at all the little peripheral, like the SCG&E and the water and the toilet paper and the coffee pods and the replacing the couch once a year, and like, knowing the numbers on these things and really having a sobering look at those and guiding your decisions, but also zooming out and looking out, like, what's the direction of this and how am I going to use this as strategically as possible? Because we've been in a phase, I've said it, I've been in real estate, like, I think this is my 10th year in real estate. And I'll tell people, every house I've ever sold is worth now more than it was when I sold it. That won't always be true.
No.
So we have this luxury of options, but it is time to make big boy decisions, right? Because you don't want to look back and say, I missed the window. Because there's so many people, you talk to people in 08, 09, and they're like, dude, I missed it. Or you even listen to like Mark Cuban. He's like, did some big like options trading thing. Like, and if he was 6 weeks off, he would have like lost everything, but instead he made billions. So timing is kind of everything if you're planning to make a move. But if you have long-term finance and a long-term horizon and a long-term plan, it's like this is another one of those duality things. When do we decide to move this chess piece over here in order to add more value, and do the numbers support that? So knowing the numbers, I don't know.
Yeah, I like
Distilling it down to that.
I mean, investing is about knowing the numbers.
Yeah, and it's looking at like all your deals and being like, which one worked better based on, I mean, it sounds so basic, right? But there's some where you're like, I don't know, which one performs the best?
Yeah. I think it was my ego at the time that was performing the best.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you got.
At least
you to hear. It got you to hear.
I can admit it.
Yeah, whatever.
I still don't think I'd lose money on them, but like, do they make financial sense in long term? No.
You
they
should
don't.
sell them.
I'm going to sell them.
Are you going to sell them?
When
When are you going to sell them?
I don't know if it's a good time. They're rented out.
I don't know. How soon can you get them out?
The lease ends in August, and then the Airbnb is April. So that's
You got to rent it until April.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Same tenant.
Same.
Or just okay.
Yeah. 30-day minimum.
I think you should sell that one.
Yeah.
First.
Okay. Well, that's the end of this podcast. Matt Davies just telling me to sell all my real estate.
Yeah. We'll look back in the future and see if it was right or wrong.
I like it. Thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully you stuck around. Feel free to subscribe and leave a 5-star review, and all of his shit will be in the description so you can go and follow along. Nice. Thanks a lot. See you guys later.
Cool.